Hey, what's good, everyone? It's your boy Matt Diazable coming at you with some new album reviews. Today, we're checking out the band 200 Stab Wounds with their latest album. If I'm correct, it's called Manic Procedures. Sorry, it wasn't on the top of my head right there, but yeah. Woo! A little background on this band is that they come from Cleveland, Ohio, and have been a band since about 2019. From the album cover alone, you can tell that they're a death metal band that kind of dabbles in like 90s death metal style. They mostly talk about like death, decay, typical death metal stuff, gory stuff, and just like horrible, nasty stuff that falls into the death metal category. But I think what helps them set themselves apart and also kind of like make them one of the most interesting and I would say, what's the word I'm looking up for? A new breed of death metal in this current age of 2024 is they infuse a lot of their influences into their music, and one of the biggest influence they have here is clearly hardcore. Like I said, they introduce a lot of elements from hardcore into their style of death metal, which makes it a little bit more refreshing and revamps the genre. And specifically, I think because they have some really like hardcore chugging riffs. They're not as like they do the death metal like fast down picking wheelie like hard playing, but they add some groovy hardcore riffs in here and the breakdowns. Most death metal bands don't have like huge breakdowns, but these guys add that whole hardcore heavy breakdown feeling, and the songs have a good heaviness to them. And I think a good example of that is on the song Gross Abuse. The way the guitars sound and everything, it sounds very, very just like hardcore playing, but with like a death metal tuning to it. So here's a clip of that for you. Such grooviness, and I think it all comes from like these guys coming from the hardcore scene. I think this style of metal is kind of like becoming the new norm right now, and I think it's really refreshing and just giving all the bands, including 200 Stab Wounds and other bands who are doing this kind of similar style, a more like unique edge to their music. And so when you listen to these songs, they kind of stick to your they stick in your mind a little bit more because they have that extra grooviness and bounce that most death metal bands don't usually have, or at least have before. Now those two genres of hardcore and death metal are infused here, and it's just making it really enjoyable. I think one thing that they have greatly improved on from their previous album to this is the technicality they have in their guitar playing. They can go really groovy and heavy with some like hardcore style riffs, but they really didn't forget that the death metal that they're coming from and all the death metal bands that came before them, they are really paying a lot of respects and homage to that style that came out before them, and they just really did a good job of sounding a little bit tighter, more interesting with their guitar solos and their shredding, particularly on the song Led to the Chamber / Liquefied. There's a really nice guitar solo in here that just it leads into it, like the song really leads into it nicely, and just you can tell like he's a lot the lead guitarist is just sharper and has a more of a honed skill on playing his guitar now, and I want to play a clip of that for you. Like I like how it went down a little bit and then came back up. I guess that's considered scaling, I guess. But it was really interesting and made you like it kind of drew you in as you listened. The drumming for a majority of this album is really tight. He can do a really good blast beat, keep a really good groove, and just overall stay in the pocket throughout this whole album. I would say that on the song Flatline, I think it's called, or Ride the Flatline, he kind of gets a little sloppy in terms of his playing. I think on that song they were going for more of a looser vibe, so he wasn't as tight as he could have been. But on the song Flesh from Within, he sounds super tight and sounds really good. And I want to play a clip of that for you. You'll see, like the way he transitions into that groovy fast playing, very nice. I think what's really also dope about this band, they don't really forget about the bass in terms of like its weight and vibrance. On the songs Hands of Eternity and Flesh from Within, the bass gets a lot of time to shine, and also like you can feel the weight of the bass playing. And I think it goes hand in hand that the bass player is doing a really good job, and the whole structure of the song gives him a lot to work with. And the production on this album makes him sound really fat and thick. So kudos to the bass player doing a good job of playing, and then mixing and mastering him really good on this album. In the vocal department for this band, I would say that there hasn't been much of an improvement, but there hasn't been much of a deep improvement, or I forgot the word right now, but he hasn't gotten worse. I would say the vocalist is consistent with that whole death guttural sound, and he's doing a really good job consistently throughout this album. There was never a moment where he like dipped in his quality of sound wise and just overall performance, but he wasn't trying to do anything different to like shake things up a little bit. He was riding that line of just being brutal, heavy, and dope. So I gotta say that 200 Stab Wounds is really doing a good job of fusing their influences of hardcore, death metal, some rock and groove metal, and mixing everything up really well and balancing things out well with a good production, fresh, interesting written songs, good solos, brutal vocals. I think they just did a really good job of improving on themselves, and as death metal as a whole, they were able to really push it forward and make it more interesting and kind of fun to listen to again. Not saying that death metal wasn't fun before, but just like, they spiced it up a little bit. So I gotta say this latest album from 200 Stab Wounds is a nice, decent 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, links down below. Like, subscribe. Tell me what you thought about this. Give me some other recommendations. Check out this other video that's going over here. And like always, I will see you in the pit. Yeah.